record of 3-14. With the loss and the Patriots win over Buffalo yesterday, the Titans have the number 1 overall pick in the 2025 NFL Draft, which is April 24th in Green Bay, Wisconsin. It is Black Monday across the NFL. The Patriots have fired head coach Gerard Mayo. The Jaguars have fired Doug Peterson, but will retain general manager Trent Baalke. Multiple teams have put out statements announcing the retention of their head coach and GM tandem. That includes the New York Giants, the Indianapolis Colts, and the Miami Dolphins. No news to this point around the Tennessee Titans. Brian Callahan will have his end-of-season press conference later today, coming up at 1:30. For all your foundation repairs and waterproofing needs, visit USSTN.com. Breaking news at once on your home for the Titans and Vols. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here at 104.5 The Zone, powered by All Four Seasons Garage Door, 615-737-1045. And boy, oh boy, are we in for a day. At 1:30 p.m., Brian Callahan will be at the podium to do a season-ending presser. We'll carry that in its entirety, as long as he comes up actually on time. You know, not slow, not late. He's got to get up there on time, but we'll carry that in its entirety. We'll also keep you updated with any movings and firings and hirings that happen on the NFL at large. I mean, we have a lot to really get to. Yesterday, the Tennessee Titans, I wouldn't say they played to lose, but I would say that maybe they were coaching to lose. They secured the number 1 overall pick. They have the season has mercifully ended, but we all await what's going to happen with Rand Carthon, because last night, a lot of thick smoke coming out of around the Titans facility from outsiders and people that cover the NFL and all this kind of stuff. And this morning, nothing. It has been silence this whole time. So are you a little surprised, Blaine, that we haven't heard anything before Brian Callahan's presser at 1:30 p.m.?
Are you surprised?
Yes.
Oh, I'm not surprised.
You're just not surprised? I mean, all these other teams have came out with statements either supporting or firing. I just wondered.
Well, I'm going to give you my reasoning, and that is because he hasn't had a meeting with the head boss lady yet. So until that meeting, which typically happens after 1:30, so I'm assuming later in the week, if you kind of look at the pattern and history of the Titans, and especially with Amy there, usually things are later in the week. Like, think about this. When did Vrabel get fired? I don't even know the date, but I know it wasn't on Monday. Right. Yeah. See, I know it wasn't on Monday.
Right.
See, so I would wait. And, it's always interesting that everybody's talking about Rand, who's really theoretically got here. This was his first drive. I'm going to say that because he came in late to the process. He was trying to work with Vrabel and try to do what Vrabel wanted to do, even though he was part of the process.
Yeah.
So that's kind of interesting that it's just more Rand and actually Callahan, who Rand then hence hired Callahan. So that's kind of weird to me. Then you start this whole cycle of, guys not on the same page. And then if you win with the new GM, and then once you don't, then it's not my guy. So you kind of start this cycle all over again. So
right.
I expect if I was making a guess, and not on a day, because I don't think it's going to be today. I don't think we're going to hear very much as far as any resolution today. I don't expect that at all. So I would say if I was making a guess, just looking at the pattern and history of Amy, maybe Callahan maybe force his hand with maybe some coaches on staff, or take his play calling, as I kind of hinted all last week.
You did. I mean,
so that's kind of the only thing I'm really looking at. Maybe special teams, but they improved. I mean, it got better. Let's just say that statistically.
They almost got a couple more blocks yesterday. Yeah. I said in here during the when we were watching the game with Lucas and producer Jackson's behind the glass. I go, wouldn't it be funny if the special teams unit broke off a touchdown and then blocked a punt for another touchdown to end the year and put the Titans at like pick 7.
Oh, that would have been hilarious.
That would have been, and they came close to blocking a couple of punts. But that would have been the funniest thing to happen. Even though, I mean, ultimately that would be a very bad thing for happen, but it'd been the funniest thing to happen.
Yeah, that would have been hilarious. But what do you think is going to happen? I know you think maybe, I know it's, Black Monday, but I just from, I don't see anything happen today, but I could be completely wrong. I'm just making a guess, an educated guess based off of pattern and history with the organization.
Yeah, the organization's pattern in a vacuum is very frustrating from probably a fan perspective and a media perspective. Because, I mean, obviously Callahan's going up at 1:30 p.m. Regardless of what happens, he's going to be answering questions that he can't necessarily answer or shouldn't have to be asked and be answered. Remember, it's like when Vrabel got fired last year and they put out Rand Carthon. That's not really, if you're the person that fires, the guy, you need to be out there answering the questions. And now, because of the timing, obviously, obviously Callahan is keeping his job because he's going up on a presser. Of course, sometimes that doesn't really mean much, right? I mean, like we saw it with Matt Eberflus. He went up for a presser and then he got fired a couple hours later. So at the end of the day, I just don't like how they handle their messaging and their timing outside of the stadium. Because, I mean, everybody, even when the Giants, and listen, I'm not saying the Giants are like the perfect beacon of how a franchise is supposed to be ran, but the Giants even came out and said, hey, we're taking our time, blah, 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 blah. Statement, we're taking our time. And then today, we're keeping our guys. Early in the morning, statements out, we're keeping our guys. Why couldn't there be some kind of messaging, even if it's not a definitive answer, to let us know what's going on? But she was there at the game yesterday.
But that doesn't. See, what I love about leadership is you don't have to follow the rules what everybody else does.
Well, I'm just
you
saying,
follow your timeline.
I'm not saying they have to, but I mean,
where you're
I think that is more indicative of they have a lot of bad processes. I feel like.
Well, I don't know that. I'm not. I don't know what their process is, so maybe that's tells you what you think. But I just think you should be on your own timeline. And if you're comfortable with your decision, then you move forward, whatever that is. So that to me, this is not a rush decision by any means, whether it's Callahan or Rand. And you said something that was very interesting there. I wanted to bring up. I had to write it down. So do you think with the way that it's structured, Rand can fire Callahan, the head coach, or Brinker can fire Callahan, the head coach? And only Amy can make any firings with the structure that is in place today.
Well, with the structure they put in place is only Amy. According to what they say.
Oh, okay.
I'm just taking them at their word, at the black and white, everything.
Oh, I don't
Now, Rand Carthon has control over final say or input over the coaching staff.
Right.
But as far as who can fire Rand Carthon, it would come down from Amy.
Got you. Well, but I was asking more about the coach because you were referencing Rand, like his job is on the line based off of some national reporters.
Right. I mean, that's what some of the stuff I've heard, that Buck has heard, that TD has heard, PK's heard. A lot of the reporting around there, or I guess I should say informed speculation, is that there's less solid ground for Rand Carthon.
Yeah, well, where there's smoke, there's fire. I was at the game yesterday, so I think you do hear a lot of those things, but I'm not real big on how those rumor mills get all started and what's real and not, but that's definitely what's going on around there. It's just interesting because how does all of a sudden the GM become on the hot seat without actually the head coach? And when he was probably part of decision makings for the year before. He was the decision maker on, I think he pushed hard for Callahan. So then all of a sudden now we go through this cycle, which is really bad to me, is now you're going to hire a GM who did not hire this head coach. So imagine, as I said before, they start off slow next year. 2-6, 2-4.
You can't have Callahan looking over his shoulder next year.
It's not going to work.
The only way it would work is, and listen, I'm not advocating for this, is Brinker gets the GM title as well added to his big, long title anyway.
I didn't think of that.
My thing, I'm with you, Blaine. You fire one, you fire them both. And I don't think they should. I think they should keep both guys. Both guys should have a chance to turn this around. Like, everybody focuses when they talk about John Robinson, 3 straight first-round pick misses, and that's fine. That needs to be said. But he deserves more credit, a.k.a. more blame, because he missed on 17 of 23 of those draft picks in those years, including those 3. Only 6... Let me tell you this. Only 9 players from his drafts from 2016 to 2022 are on this roster right now. 9.
Well, you're not telling me anything. I think he was part of this whole issue to where we are today. But see, what people look at is what's on the surface. We were winning, but at the same time, he made decisions for long term that destroyed the team. And see, people only want to see the wins of the now, but yeah, that's why I kept saying they needed to move forward. I love the decisions. Maybe I wouldn't have timed it up in the middle of the season, but I had no issue with the John Robinson, let alone even Vrabel. So, I think it was a little bit overdue, but, that's hard to pinpoint when that actually is because I'm not behind the scenes and having those kind of communications and conversations. So, that's why where we're at. So I just think Rand and Callahan and his crew deserve actually an opportunity to see if they can. So it's a tough call because if it's about your belief. To me, here's what I would do. I want to hear Callahan's plan, and then I want to hear Rand's plan. Rand or Brinker, whoever is running. And I want to hear what they say. And if I don't like it, then I'm moving forward. If I do like it, then let's rock and roll.
Yeah, and to be honest, you got the number 1 overall pick. And here's the thing. I think the number 1 overall pick really puts more things. It gives you as the owner a better idea of, or a better possibility, I guess to say, probability that you clean house, right? Because you got the number 1 overall pick. You can bring in a new head coach, new GM, let them pick the quarterback, let them do whatever they want to do with the first-round pick. I don't think that's necessarily how you should be looking at it, but that is something that's probably going to cross her mind or whoever is maybe talking in her ear that, hey, we can clean house and let's just start fresh. We still got a little bit of time. We're not before that stadium is built. Let's just start completely fresh and get this all on the same page. To me, though, this regime is on the same page. There's nothing to show that this team is not on the same path, sharing the same vision. Now, listen, we don't know the ins and outs of maybe the, I guess, corporate backstabbing or, anything like that could happen in these situations. But we haven't heard any rumors from anybody, national media or anything, that there is some big dissension like we heard last year.
Right.
Or like when Vrabel and J-Rob were at the end of their tenure. We haven't heard anything like that. So at this point, you have to assume that everybody's on the same page. They have weekly meetings, they talk, and all that kind of stuff. So, I feel like they're all on the same page. And they've been talking to her all year, every week. So is she on the same page too? But I do think it's very interesting just from a timing standpoint about how all this is going down. And, of course, we'll hear from Brian Callahan at 1:30 p.m. We're going to talk more about this because I got some more questions for Blaine about this situation when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, 615-737-1045. We await Brian Callahan coming to the podium. He should be up at the podium at 1:30, so we'll only be here for a quick second with you. But, Blaine, I kind of wanted to take just a quick look around the NFL. Only a handful of head coaching openings. A lot of people didn't get fired that people had tabbed were getting fired, the Giants and the Colts. Only one general manager opening. So I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I'm not saying I want Rand Carthon fired. But if you were going to fire Rand Carthon, I think that Chad Brinker's the likely replacement. But this is the time to maybe dip into a really strong GM candidate pool because there's a lot to pull from. Albert Breer just had 16 possible candidates and went in depth on 16 of them. But there's only one job of GM, and there's only one job. So this would be the time, if you're Amy Adams Strunk, to make a bold move. But here's the thing. If you bring in a completely new GM, he should have final say, hey, you got a couple of days whether you want to keep Brian Callahan or not. You should not hire a guy just because he says he'll work with Brian Callahan. He should be taking the job with the option to keep Brian Callahan.
Well, was that the same thing with Rand? Well, he hired him, so he hired the guy, or he pushed for that hire. Yeah. Whether it went good or bad. So I would expect that's what a GM would want.
Well, John Robinson, when he was hired, they did that interview pool with the saying that you have to understand you're taking Mike Mularkey.
Right.
And that's how John Robinson got the job, because he's willing to work with Mike Mularkey. He should be given the option whether he wants to work with Brian Callahan or not have him forced on him. Oh. Because you don't want Brian Callahan spending a whole year looking over his shoulder.
Oh, so that's how. I didn't understand. I didn't know that was the case. I thought it was the understanding of why not keep Mularkey and work with him and just see where it goes from there and evaluate after a year. I thought that's how it went.
Yeah,
but I didn't know he was forced on him. I guess maybe that is
at least what the reports were. Back then.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't remember the reports. But it was never going to work when you're talking about two men with two huge egos. You're talking about a GM and a head coach. Especially a coach that has experience and not his first rodeo. That's always a tough situation. So to me, availability does not hence then help me make a decision here. It goes back to fundamentally asking what is their plan, what do I believe in what they're asking, that they're saying that they're going to do, and if I believe in it. It's no different than why you would draft Shador or Cam Ward. If you're passionate about it, and then you, after your interviews and going through the whole process, that's kind of how I would be here with the evaluation. That's why I don't think anything's going to be done today. Because, first of all, they have to evaluate the coaching staff, the head coach included in that. And then you then lead to, okay, now let's sit down and talk to the powers that be, started with Amy at the top, and then see what their plan is and what they need to do to move forward. And do you believe it? So I think that's kind of how would fundamentally go about this process. It's not about who's available unless it's some guaranteed guy who's had a history of success and that I could probably never get my hands on. So GM is kind of a roll of dice. You don't know who's really good as not. And it's really hard to say. So me being conservative, I probably would hold pat and see if they can get it done. Now, I do understand that if you get a GM and you change, that does buy you another year to say, okay, going into the stadium, okay, now hence if things don't work out next year, then you say, okay, I'm going to get my coach, and then we're going to be moving to new excitement and everything else. And maybe, by the way, get you a quarterback, even whether if it's the draft. Because if I'm saying you're firing the coach, then that means things didn't go so well, I'm assuming.
Yeah.
So it's really hard. That's why I'm glad I'm not sitting there. I think this is one of those ones where I think you could lose either way you move in this.
Well, that's really how the NFL is built, right?
Yeah,
the NFL is built to basically promote parity, pull everybody down to mediocrity. Yeah. Look at how the whole season went for the NFL as a whole. In terms of win-loss records, it's really insane how bad a lot of these teams were, and they're all bad for different reasons and different situations. But that's what the NFL is. Everything is a gamble in the NFL. Mm-hmm. Who you hire as head coach, who you hire as GM. not giving them enough time. Who you draft in any position, no matter what round, you never know who's going to be a Brock Purdy, and you never know who's going to be a Jamarcus Russell. Like it is really hard.
Trey Lance.
Yeah, it's really hard to go through all of that if you don't trust your own process, and that's what Amy Adams Strunk has to really get to. She has to be able to trust her gut, trust her process, and trust that the decision that she's making is the right decision. And she already made a big decision. You know, when she fired Mike Vrabel for Rand Carthon, that was a big, franchise-altering decision. Now you got another one. Are you, 1 year later after choosing Rand Carthon, going to fire him again? Or not again, but fire.
I mean, just think you have to change your whole scouting department a little bit. You're behind. I mean, man, that's just it's
it's a bad place to be in.
Yeah,
but I think the NFL has shown patience usually yields better results than impatience. Mm-hmm. So that's where we're at. When we come back, hopefully Brian Callahan will be at the podium, and we'll hear from the Titans head coach when we come back. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here, 105 The Zone.
For many of you who have lived here a long time, you already know Eurofix has been in Middle Tennessee area for your European car repair needs now for 26 years. And we've all gotten to watch them grow. And I don't know about you, but I love watching a hometown business take off. Well, we're now proud to announce the 5th location in Mount Juliet for Eurofix in, Mount Juliet Road and next door to Dairy Queen. And Eurofix can serve you in Franklin, Hundred Oaks, Murfreesboro, Belmead, and now Mount Juliet. Pretty cool to get to watch a small-town mechanic starting in the barn of his backyard of a single-wide trailer and now grow to 5 locations repairing thousands of cars each month. And at Eurofix, you get a 3-year nationwide warranty and a free loaner car with every repair appointment. And all you have to do is just give them a call at 844-EUROFIX. That's right, 844-EUROFIX, or you can visit them online at myEurofix.com. That's myEurofix.com. But always don't blame you.
Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors. We await Brian Callahan getting at the podium. As soon as he gets up to the podium, we'll pass it off to him. And Blaine, I mean, obviously, number 1 overall pick, makes this job very attractive if there were supposed to be an opening. But they also have, so far, the 10th most cap space in the NFL as well. So if this job, GM job, were to actually become open, it's a lot more attractive with those things than not. But also, Tennessee Titans have a lot of options to get better and get better pretty quickly with those two things.
Yeah, I mean, yeah. It just you keep redirecting as though only Rand. I don't the GM position. You reference all those things, but to me, they all go hand in hand. I just kind of how I look at it. So yeah, for the head coach.
Well, I mean, I just assume the reason why I keep putting Rand out there is because all the national reporting has also said that Brian Callahan is safe. Brian Callahan's about to speak. That'd be pretty bad form. I mean, I know the Bears have done it, but it'd be pretty bad form if Brian Callahan speaks and he's fired later.
Oh, wow. In this business, I mean, you've been in it long enough, you know never to make assumptions.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to, when, you don't know how somebody's feeling on one day. You could support, and by the history of Amy Adams Strunk, yes, they're staying, and then with Malarkey, and then the next day he's fired. So that has happened periodically throughout her time as running the organization. So I could never say anything's indefinite or based off of what, people are saying, because sometimes it goes to far left and never even happens. So you just don't know. Don't know what the owners are thinking at this point in time and what's important to her. And it could be also personality conflicts. I mean, there's a lot of different reasons. So I would never make any assumptions about what somebody's reporting.
I'm just, based off the
kind
actions.
of more speculative than something that it's in stone.
Yeah, this is just based off the actions, because last year when they fired Vrabel, he didn't have the end-of-year press conference.
Right.
So this year he's had Brian Callahan. We assume that when the video pops up, I guess, it's Brian Callahan. They got his picture right here.
Right, but did Malarkey have the press last year?
I don't remember about if Malarkey had one that day or not.
I think he did.
And he may have. Yeah. But I'm not entirely sure on that part. Yeah. But like you said, I mean, never know. I guess at this point.
I'm saying, I don't know.
But either way, let's say this: even if it is a head coaching opportunity is open, it's still an attractive job.
Yes, very much so.
You got a new stadium. You an owner that showed that she was willing. There are some important pieces in place already. Not a lot of them, but some important pieces, and you have the flexibility to either come in and you have the flexibility to find your own quarterback. Or
that's really
attractive. You really have the flexibility if you are one of those people that's going to fool themselves into thinking they can fix Will Levis. That's also an option too. You may not be given that option according to the owner, but we'll see. But I look at it and I'm just like, okay, this isn't a situation where it's as unattractive as it may have looked like a couple weeks ago.
Definitely. When
you were talking about, man, you won't have the first overall pick really changes the optics of everything.
Yes. I'm very attractive from a coaches to GM. You can start from scratch. You have availability, as you mentioned, with the cap. So you wouldn't falter if she decided to clean house, to sticking with, the whole crew here for one more year to see if they can continually build the foundation. And if she doesn't like it then she can move forward.
Because that's what it's all about, is building the foundation, building the culture, and really haven't really seen a lot of fractures or dissension, not just among the staff, but among the players either. No. And the players and coaching relationships and all that. And so I kind of look at it and say, the stuff that we don't see out in public, whatever that, the culture building, the locker room, whatever you want to call it, whatever you want to put that, that label on that kind of stuff, is actually obviously working pretty well from what we can tell from the outside looking
And
in.
they played really hard. I don't know how you view yesterday's game.
Yeah.
That's
coaching. That's coaching to lose.
That was kind of weird watching sometimes where you go for it, don't go for it, rotating the quarterbacks and everything. And guess what? We got exactly what we thought. Inconsistency. Actually, Mason Rudolph moved the team, and then Will Levis gave us a wow, and he gave us an old mishandle of the ball with the handoff. I don't know whose fault it was, but it happened.
I mean, it looked like it was going right. He's trying to put it through the shoulder of was that Tay Martin or Bryce Oliver?
I think it was Oliver, but it was one of those guys. I don't know if they knew how to take a handoff. I don't know. I have no idea. Was it supposed to be a toss? I have no idea. But he was involved.
He tried to throw it another interception at the very end. That little arm punt.
I was like, oh my gosh. It was really comical, entertaining all at the same time.
Coach Mack and them were, talking about that play on the radio live. And then Coach Mack goes, just exactly how they drew it up at practice. Just joking. Because, that was just funny. Because he tried his best to throw that. And then, listen, the defender... his last name was Yeast. Didn't rise to the occasion, by the way.
Yeah,
but he was treating it like a punt because he's like, well, this dude just threw it right to me, and here comes Tate Martin just coming right on through and just like yoink and just ran right into the end zone. So that was pretty funny. I mean, oh, man. Could you imagine if that was the last pass he threw as a Tennessee Titan was an interception?
Oh, man, that would have just been historic there. Just So, hey, man, that was it was rough sledding there at the stadium.
The press conference should be coming up here shortly because I just got the Twitter notification that
I'm sure
here it is.
Jackson's all over.
He's live,
right?
so we're going to toss it to Brian Callahan, who's up at the podium at St. Thomas Sports Park when it comes up on the screen. There you go.
Snowing still.
Just to start off, I think that this season in and of itself, obviously disappointing. Our goal was to try to win as many games as we could, find ourselves in position. We're always trying to compete to play in the playoffs, trying to compete for our division, and obviously fell well short of those goals this season. A lot of things that I have to be better in. I've had a lot of mornings, this meetings this morning with players, and just getting a lot of feedback and evaluating and reflecting on what I can do better. And there's a lot of things that I can do to help our process. A lot of things I can do better as a head coach, as a play caller, as an offensive coach. We have to do better really all the way across the board, coaching-wise, from the playing perspective. Things got sideways for us this year when it came to taking care of the football, penalties, and negative plays. And then when, the penalties and sacks and things along those lines offensively killed us. We didn't do a good enough job in the red zone preventing people from scoring touchdowns when they got down there. And the combination of all of those things put us in a pretty good hole that we had trouble climbing out of. And competitive games early in the season that we gave away and didn't give ourselves a chance. And then we had to fight all season long to try to climb out of a hole. And ultimately didn't get there. We had to deal with some handful of injuries, our preferred secondary that we started off with. The guys that we were counting on to play a lot of snaps, I think together only played about 100 snaps. And so that didn't materialize the way we had hoped it would. But in the meantime, we had a lot of guys step up, and I still thought we played pretty good pass defense over the course of the year with the guys that stepped up to play. But ultimately, got to continue to find ways to get better. We got to eliminate the things that we did poorly. We got to find ways to keep adding good players to our roster, which I think we added good players last year. We're going to add another cycle full of good players, and then we got to keep pushing forward. Ultimately, I have to do a better job as a head coach, so we're not in this position again at any point. Don't have any interest in repeating this season, although there's lots of things to glean from it lessons-wise. I don't want to be here again or be in this position again, and I'm fully determined and resolved to get us to a point where we don't have to talk about how many games we've lost. We can talk about how many games we've won, and that's my goal to get there. With that, I'll let you guys get going.
When you mentioned feedback, what was some of the feedback that you were getting in these meetings?
I just what things were good, what guys liked, what did they respond to, what can I do better? How can I be better for them? That's my job, is to find ways to be better for our football team. And one of the things that I know I need to do a better job of is because of the difficulty of being in charge of calling plays and running the offense, is I spend a lot of time on offense, and I got to do a better job of spending my time more with the guys on the other sides of the ball on special teams and on defense, and just making myself more available and visible to them. Even though I spend a lot of time with the offensive guys, one of the things I need to do a much better job of moving forward is still continuing to build the same style relationships with the guys on defense as well. So that's something that my first year and trying to get the offense off the ground, need to do a better job of that moving forward.
Is there potential in that, Brian, that you wouldn't call plays at any point?
That I would not. I think I'm humble enough and open enough that if that's a change that need to be made, I would make it. Right now, though, I do feel good about that process. I love calling plays on game day. It's part of where I find a lot of joy in the football process. But, I'm never going to close the door on something if it makes us better. But as of right now, no, I continue to anticipate to see myself calling plays and doing that part of the operation, because it is the part that I enjoy quite a bit, and I love game days calling plays. So, but again, if it makes us a better football team and I need to devote my resources elsewhere, I'm always open to those thought processes. So, but right now, no, I don't anticipate that changing.
Changes that you anticipate, or when will those decisions?
Working through that this week. Today's kind of been more player focused with all the guys' exit meetings and all those things. I'll be meeting with the coaches over the next couple of days and getting the same type of feedback I got, from the players, and we can talk about. We had more in depth things with the coaching staff stuff, but those things. If we head on making any changes, it'll be as the week goes along after I meet with everybody.
Quarterback situation at the end of this season and heading forward into 2025?
Well, we got one quarterback under contract. The other two are free agents, and we're in position to potentially draft quarterback. We're in position to, with the cap stability and flexibility we have, to potentially sign a veteran quarterback, and so we're going to explore every avenue to do that. There's a lot of ways you can do this process, and we'll unturn every stone to find out what the best one is for us. There's a lot of work to be done between now and those decision-making times, but I think it's very clear that that's a position that we have to do our due diligence on and our work on, both in free agency and in the draft. So, with that being said, too, Will has to keep his same mindset. He's got to keep getting ready to play. He's got to keep getting better. I still believe in the tools that he has and his ability to be a good quarterback, but I was very straightforward with him that it's very likely that there'll be somebody else in here competition-wise at the very minimum. So that's a position that we'll be looking at.
Brian, when you look at the quarterback draft,
I'll come back, Bud.
specifically this year, I know the word is it's not as loaded as maybe years past. When you go into a situation like this where you have the number one overall pick, is there a specific quarterback that needs to really stand out in what you're looking to mold as a head coach, where you could go that direction?
I know there's a lot of, and truth be told, there's a lot of smart people out there that have a jump on this process ahead of me. I haven't spent much time scouting, but I will be pouring every ounce of that into that draft class and seeing what it looks like, what those players look like, what they provide, what their strengths and weaknesses are. The other part of it that's critically important is the person. How do they function? What's their leadership style? What's their mental capacity? What's their nervous system, if you will? How do they function in the game and as a player? Those things are really important, and those don't come until we get a chance to talk to guys and bring them in and go see pro days and all that. So this process is in its infancy. It is very, 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 very early. So to make any proclamations, I think for us at this point on whether a class is good or not, I think is very premature. And we got to do our due diligence on all of the players that'll be available to us. And again, the only benefit is there's nobody in front of us, so we get to pick who we like the best, or there's also a lot of other options that go in there as well. But very early on, and there'll be a lot more time to talk about those things as we move forward. Well, go ahead, Buck. I'll let you come back.
What skill set in that room are you looking to add that you might not otherwise have?
As far as
the quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think we need, we need to turn the ball over less. That's a part of it. Got to take less sacks. That's also a part of it. We got to find a mix between the explosive play rate that we had, which was pretty good as the season went along. We got better there versus the completion part of it. We're still moving the offense There's a leadership component to it as well. That's important. That you're trying to find a guy that can elevate the rest of the team as well. That's a huge part. Sometimes that's with veteranness because they've played and they have respect. Sometimes when you go if it's a young player, they got to learn how to do that. But there's a lot of things about the quarterback position, the play that we got this year that was good. But we need much more of it, and we need more consistency. And I think that's the most critical part is that sort of down to down, game to game consistency and execution, where we don't have the ebbs and flows and lulls and moments of really good execution, and then these moments where we sort of disappeared. And the quarterback plays a large role in a lot of those processes.
Do you anticipate Ryan and Chad are back in their current roles as of now?
Again, I've been focused solely on the players getting out of the building this week. I know that's all the conjecture out there. Until someone tells me differently, yeah, I do. But again, that's not. I haven't had those conversations with anybody yet. I've been in my office meeting players all morning. So anything else that's out there, I wouldn't be aware of. So other than that, I expect business as usual.
Back at maybe the offensive line this year and the way it played, how much different could things look next season?
As far as the offensive line,
right?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a really big opportunity for JC to continue to improve. I thought he played really well over the course of the season, and it's a really important offseason for him, to really take that next step and be the caliber of player I think he's capable of. The guy that doesn't get probably nearly enough credit for his improvement is Peter. Peter really played well this season. I'm really happy and excited about him. So that I feel very good about that part of it. Lloyd's coming off his injury. But I think the guys that stepped in for him did a nice job. Danny Brunskill and Corey Levin both did some good things. And then obviously our right side, Dylan's a free agent. And, we'll see where that goes. And then we need to get a right tackle. I would ultimately see you're probably going to, for sure see a new right tackle here in some way, shape, or form. You might see a few, depending on how that shakes out again early in the process. But I would see that we're definitely going to have to add more players up front in whichever way they come, free agency and the draft, to continue to build the line. Because from the center on left, I feel really good about it. And then from right guard and right tackle with a pending free agent, we're going to have to find ways to keep improving that. But I like the growth that we showed. I like the things that we did improve on. And it's a group that I think can improve even further and pretty rapidly, I think, as we add some more to it.
Brian, what was your conversation like after yesterday with Amy, and what did she want to know about your plan moving forward, and what did you want to impress to her about your plan?
Haven't had that conversation with her yet. That's upcoming. Again, this morning has been focused on the players and getting everybody out of the building with the exit interview. So that might be for another day. But yeah, that meeting will come.
As you talk to the players and for these exit interviews, I know you have a set goal, a set plan.
Yeah.
What do you dictate to them as the plan?
It's a lot of it's more individual as far as what I saw that was good, where we can get better, what more I can get from them, and what the expectation is. So those are all things I try to go through as best as possible with those guys. And you can't meet with every player, right? It's just there's too many guys and not enough time. But you try to meet with the young players, your rookies, especially to prep them for what this offseason is going to be like for them. Because it's the first time they're going to be sort of on their own, without training for a combine or a draft. And then what the expectation is, and how to navigate that successfully. And then there's some free agent guys that we met with that contracts are up that we had conversations with about, moving forward and hoping to re-sign and all those things. And it's probably a little bit less in depth than that. Those conversations really start when you're coming back in April and you're really evaluating with the players the scheme from the year before.
Facing surgery upcoming, or guys that maybe not be ready for the off season?
As of right now, nothing that should prevent anybody. I'm sure guys can get some cleanup stuff, but nothing that would, as of right now, nothing that prevents anybody from being ready outside the guys that are already in the process.
Hearing feedback from the defensive guys that you hinted to earlier about needing to be more involved over there.
No, not at all. I mean, it's one of those things that I know and I feel, and it's things that I'm aware of. It's just, that first year trying to get everything the way you want it on one side, and but it's something that I'm aware of, and I knew that was part of something that I needed to be better at, and because I appreciate those guys on defense, and I really enjoy being around them, and because I'm running a lot of the offensive meetings. I'm doing the installs, I'm running all that process, and when we meet, they're meeting, and so I got to just do a better job of letting other guys on offense do their parts and do that, and then be available for them as well. It's something that I think that would help them just see me more and feel me more, and I think it's important for us. So it's something I plan on doing.
You ran through a lot of reasons why you guys didn't win more. Are you surprised that at those results, especially in the context that there's 6 other new head coaches in the league this year? They all went into different situations, obviously, but some were as grim as yours, and they averaged over 8 wins per situation.
I think it's hard to compare. I mean, all those teams are in different spots, different players, different rosters, different situations. I didn't anticipate us winning 3 games. It wasn't where I started out thinking we would be, and ultimately it's my job to help us win more, and I got to do better than I did. And I don't worry too much about the other teams out there. Everyone's got their problems. Everyone has their issues they're dealing with. Even some of the teams that do win have issues they're dealing with that aren't mine. And I don't try to spend too much time worrying about what else is compared to me or what else isn't. I just try to do the best job I can, and clearly I have to do a lot better than I did.
Do you think it was a mistake setting the expectations as high as they were for this season?
I don't remember setting expectations.
This was going to be going in the goal was to be to compete. Do you think?
Oh yeah, no, I won't walk back on that one at all. I think we could absolutely have been. We were competitive, and we got ourselves into a hole that was hard to climb out of. But yeah, I won't walk back. I did think we would be a competitive team, and I think we were at points. And we just got to find ways to play better football than we did. And ultimately, we gave away games. We got to do a better job of not doing that, and that's my job to do, and I got to make sure that gets fixed. So we gave ourselves a better chance to be the competitive team I think we're capable of. And but right now, your record is what it is. I mean, we're a 3-win team. Do I feel like we should have been better than that? Of course I do. But we're not. And the reality is that we're a 3-win team. We're picking first in the draft, and that's not the spot that when I stood up here in my opening press conference, I was like, yeah, this is where I can't wait to be having this one today where we're talking about 3 wins. So that's just all a part of it. I do have a lot of beliefs in what our team's capable of, and ultimately we didn't do it. And I still think we're capable of being much better than we are, and we got to keep building that.
Ryan, do you think it was a mistake for your general manager to say you guys had checked every box on offense, starters and depth? That set certain expectations.
Sure, I understand that. I think that we did feel like we had put pretty good effort into trying to get ourselves in position to be competitive. And when you sign, we want to be a draft and develop football team. That's what we want to do. And in the meantime, though, we needed to supplement with free agency. I don't think that any of us are under any guises that this is how you build a team all the time. You don't want to do that all the time. But we had to. We had to find ways to get some more players to inject some, ability onto the roster and keep us moving forward. And some of them worked well, and some of them, are kind of incomplete. We don't really know on some of the guys because of the injuries. But I did feel good at the time about where we put holes, where we plugged them. Obviously, we couldn't fix every possible problem, but I thought we did our best to try to do that and field the roster that was going to help us be competitive. Now, again, the results don't speak for it, and we didn't do that. It didn't ultimately come to fruition, but I think that's ultimately where I land on it.
In trying to fix the holes, a consensus by a lot of people was that there might have been more holes that could be fixed in one off season. Mm-hmm. Do you feel like that all the remaining holes can be fixed in this one off season to make this team a contender?
We're going to try. We're going to try to do as much as we can to fit our needs, to find the players that can help us, to improve the areas of our team that need to be improved. And so that's your goal every year. Are you going to hit every single one of them? That's hard to do. But we're damn sure going to try, and we're going to try to fit every possible way we can do to improve our team. And we got to nail the draft. That's a huge part. You want to be a draft and develop team, you got to nail the draft. I think we've done a good job of that, of finding players that have contributed. And you got to be great in supplementing free agency. You got to sign the right guys, the right type of guys, and guys that you think can help you. Ideally, you're looking for more value in free agency than not, but sometimes you got to. If you're in free agency, you pay more money than you'd like to because that's the way the market works. But we're sure as hell going to try to fix every problem we can fix, as quickly as we can fix it.
So how do you prioritize special teams in that aspect too? Because I feel like personnel came into play early on in the season. You brought in some guys like Justin Hardy, and we've seen, that kind of take a jump. But do you look at that in a different way now in your second year?
Yes, I think yes, I do look at it in a different way. I don't know that what we did early in the year was all that dramatic of a difference, in terms of the players. But I do think it is important, and having a guy like Justin Hardy and Luke Gifford, those guys are important members of that unit, and they make it go. The other part of it that I think is important was that our young players were playing more and more and got better. I think guys like James Williams and Cedric Gray and Bryce Oliver, those guys really came on for us. And now you have what I think is a good young core of special teams players that are sort of our type of guys.
Throughout the years, you went through like the personnel process. I know you and Rand, you guys talked every day, as you said, but what was the involvement like for Chad Brinker? Like how did that work?
Chad was involved in all of it. Chad's he's scouted before for a long time. That's what he's done. His background is in personnel. It's in scouting, but he's also got unique experiences, in the business side of it with his time in Green Bay, and has a really good feel for what the structure of an organization should look like. And yeah, it's really been the three of us sort of all the way along, from the time I got here and all the way through the season is. We've all sort of worked on the same things, and Chad has his responsibilities, and Rand has his, and I have mine, and we all come together and try to make whenever decisions are made or whenever we need to do something, that we're all on the same page, and we have been all year. That part's been really, really fun for me. I've enjoyed that part because I think Chad's got unique experiences, unique perspective, and so does Rand. I think they're both really unique people. I'm glad we have them.
You guys navigate through? Because I'm sure there had to have been some challenges or
Sure.
disagreements, so to speak. How did you guys navigate through that?
I think you guys can't be afraid to have a hard conversation. You state your opinion, and you say what you believe in, and you got to come to a consensus. And then whenever the consensus is reached, whether you ultimately are in full agreement or not, you move forward because that's the decision that we've made together. I think that's the way most decisions get made in good business is you take the information, you state your opinion, and then you decide what's the best way to move forward. And even if you're not the one that's fully on board with it, or you think another opinion, once you make the decision, you go, and it's our decision at that point, and we're all a part of it, and we all own it. So that's how it's always worked, and I think it's worked pretty well.
Cincinnati, you guys won 3 games the first year as well, right?
I think it was 2. Yeah. Sure.
You don't have Joe Burrow.
Right.
How much more?
Well, we don't know.
challenging
We don't know that yet.
Year 2, not having that cornerstone at the pocket to work from.
Just in terms of like what
You knew what you were building your team around.
in year 2, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
And you don't right now.
Oh well, the first year we didn't have Joe the first year either though. That was a different. We it was very much similar to this where we ended up selecting Joe in the second season. So that's where the difference will be, and hopefully we get ourselves into a spot where we have a very clear picture of what that looks like. Come whenever it is, end of April, once the free agency and the draft are over, we have a very clear picture of what that position looks like.
Staying with the quarterback part of it, obviously development. Will was somebody that you set out to continue to work with and stuck with throughout the course of that. Now that you've had some opportunity to reflect on how that all went or didn't necessarily go to plan, is it just as simple as the turnovers or what most went wrong there?
The turnovers are a big part of it. The other thing, there's some more finer tuned things that Will and I talked about today, just things that he's got to really focus on this offseason. And part of that's the footwork and the pocket movement, and making sure, because he's really smart and he sees things and he understands what's happening. It's the connection of seeing it and then doing it in the moment immediately, and no hesitation to it. I think that'll come with understanding the offense better as he continues to learn it. But there's some things for sure that I think he can improve on that will help him a lot. And I like his plan that he's got put together here for the offseason and what he's going to go do and where he's going to go work. That part is good. And I think he'll see some benefit from it. So, and a lot of that's, it all ultimately falls on me too. I look at it as someone who I got a really good expertise for the quarterback position. I feel really good about my ability to coach it and coach offensive football. And, I'm disappointed in myself some too that I couldn't find a way to get more or better out of the position as a whole, Will and Mason included, and that's one of the things that I got to look at and find out where I can be better for what's next. And, there's some professional pride involved in that I have to take a good look at and see where my shortcomings were in that process too, because I obviously have a hand in it.
On the quarterback side of things, like some of the abilities that you're talking about, isn't some of it also just though innate?
There is some things that are innate in quarterback play. There is parts of it that guys just do naturally, and there is some things where you can help improve that part of it too, though. So it's twofold. I mean, you got to meet halfway sometimes in that process, but there's certain things that some guys just do, and that's part of what separates quarterbacks in this league. Is there's some guys that just do at a different level than really anybody on the planet, and that's what you're always trying to find. But there's also a lot of guys that may not be that can still find a way to play effective football, and that's ultimately my job is to help get to that point where you can still play effectively, even if you aren't one of the top 5 quarterbacks on the planet and can only do things those 5 guys can do.
Do you intend to go back and look at the things that you did this season, self-critique, and really revise the way you do things going forward?
Yeah, a lot. That's the one thing I've always believed is a strength of mine, is I do have the ability to be humble and take constructive criticisms and try to improve. I don't take it personally. Because I think ultimately I'm just trying to be the best version of me that I can be and help this team as best I can to win football games. I take a lot of notes. I look at a lot of things from my perspective on that I could do better, and there'll be a long list of things that can be improved. Some minor, and then some there's more meat to. There's more things that I got to do a better job of. So I'm very, very, very open to those things, and I've done a pretty deep dive over the course of the season as it is, and then I'll really step back and look again once I get away for a little bit of time and clear your mind and get away from the emotion of the season and the up and down of the season and really dial in on what I can do better and really help our team.
About JC, but is there a lot of excitement internally about what you got from him, Tavondre, Jarvis in particular, and any of those other guys that maybe didn't have a first-string offensive and defensive role a lot that you saw something of late in the season?
No doubt. That's what's encouraging to me is that we got a lot of first and second-year players, I think, that are really poised to continue to help us and continue to grow. I think the season that Tavondre had, I think, these rookies, talking to them today even, they just how long the season is for them and what it feels like and how much different they feel going into their second year. And there's expectation on all of them. The expectation is to continue to improve. Sweat's had a nice year. Jarvis did a lot of really good things. He's going to be counted on. Sweat's going to be counted on. JC is obviously going to be counted on. These are what the cornerstone, your youth of your team is where you build good teams, and you supplement it with the right veterans. And I think we've done a good job of that as well. But we're counting on all these young players to come back better than they were. But there's a lot of guys I'm excited about that put some good tape out there. And even a guy like James Williams, the way he played on special teams over the second half of the year was incredibly impressive. And like I said before about the special teams depth, those guys provide that depth as well. It's an important part of our building our team. And those guys have all played a lot. And I think that we're going to be better for it because of it.
You're probably involved a lot last year, but do you anticipate being even more involved maybe in the scouting process this year, especially with the quarterback position being one in need, more pro days, more off-season stuff, and you're looking forward to that?
I'm back to my roots, man. I'm back to my Cincinnati days where I plan on being involved in all of it. I'll be at the All-Star games. We'll be full force at the combine. We'll be at the pro days. I'll be at all these guys' pro days. We'll bring them all in. All these prospects. We'll turn over every stone to make sure we find the right one. And it's all the players in the rounds. But I love the scouting process. I love being involved in it. I love going to the All-Star games. I'm excited to go down there and watch some of these guys. And it's just sort of the process I've been used to. And last year was so difficult because of the hiring of the staff and getting systems in place. But I'll be much more present in that part of it this year than last year. Absolutely.
I'm sure you felt.
I'll come back. Go ahead.
Ryan, I'm sure you felt prepared for this job when you stepped into it, but you have a different view of that now, having gone through this season, what you've learned, what you've had to learn, things you didn't know when you got here.
Yeah, there's no substitute for doing it. The best way I can explain it is, a lot of you are parents in here. It's like It's like having a kid, where you can read all the how-to books and talk to all the people and get all the advice. Everyone tells you what you think that you're going to do and know, and then there's no substitute to just now all of a sudden you're changing diapers at 3 a.m. and no one really told you how miserable that can be. You know, like that's the best way I can describe it, is that there's all the preparation done is all great, and I felt prepared for it. There's just so many things that come up, and so much more that you just don't know about until you're in it, until you're doing it every day. And that's a really important part, and I think that's why you see the guys that the longer they do it, the better they've gotten at it, the more refined their process is, and the better they handle all elements of the team. And that's what I'm looking for is I got to keep that development track too. I'm just like our rookie players, you know. I got to there's expectations on me, and I have to keep getting better and keep improving. And that's my goal for myself too, is to take all the lessons I learned this year and keep getting better. But yeah, there's no substitute for the experience. There's no way to know what it is until you do it.
Peter and JC talked about being motivated out of the embarrassment of what happened this year. Sounded a little bit like you felt that way yourself. What do you think about players using that? How much will you use that?
Yeah, we're all prideful. We're all competitors. I'm incredibly prideful. I've won a lot of football games on teams in this league, and I've lost plenty too. But this is a season that I know I'm a good football coach. I know I'm going to be a good head coach. But this is certainly not the results I had anticipated, and I'm going to have to do a much better job. And it is embarrassing. I do not like standing up here talking about picking first in the draft. I don't like it. I don't like the fact that we won 3 games. That's not the standard I've set for myself. So yeah, I get where they're coming from. You know, that does motivate me. No professional that likes to compete likes to be embarrassed. And you know, there's feelings of that when you only win 3 games, and I'm determined to not let that happen again. Thank you.
You right there. I guess the first thing to talk about, Blaine, is that he hasn't spoken to Amy Adams Strunk yet. So he hasn't even, according to what he said, he hasn't even had his end of season meeting with her. He's been busy. He hasn't met with his staff really. He's been busy meeting with the players all day today, you know, doing their exit interviews, getting them off-season game plans and what they need to work on. So
hence, that's what I said.
You said it. You said it. You said, hey, they may not met yet. And
I didn't say may. I said I don't think they met yet.
You're right. And they have not. And, you know, for the last 24 hours, you know, nothing was on the table. You know, they were both in Nashville, so nothing's happened yet. So, but he is moving ahead like most head coaches would in this situation. Like he's going to be here. He's moving ahead like Chad Brinker and Rand Carthon are going to be here, that these players are going to be here and all this kind of stuff. So right now, he's saying that he's the head coach, and until someone fires him and he has his meeting, he's the head coach of the Tennessee Titans going forward. And I think, you know, to be honest with you, I think that's the right move.
Yeah, until told otherwise. So, I didn't, as I said, I didn't expect anything. He hadn't met with Amy. Amy, you even mentioned, I asked you, when was verified? You said Tuesday. Well, today's not Tuesday because he hadn't had his meeting with her yet. He's met with the players first. So I don't know if that's an indication that he'll be here or not be here. And, you know, every situation's its own situation. So we can't, you know, correlate what happened in the past and say that that's going to happen here. I think a lot more dialogue was transferring amongst the group of individuals at the top as well as with Amy. So they may feel like there is no need to have a meeting if they've been meeting periodically throughout, unless she changes her mind about what her thoughts were on what they told her. So, So it went according to plan, exactly what I thought would happen based off, you know, how the season ended and asking end of season questions. And, you know, one thing that comes across, you know, I know it's a lot of PR moves, you know, they did, you know, talking off season and talking, you know, about all the players and never anything, you know, drastically in a negative light. But one thing that comes across as being really consistent with head coach Callahan, and that is what a humbled guy. He in this presser, which I haven't seen many coaches do, talk about not only evaluation of quarterbacks and players, but what he needed to do to improve and what he learned through this process. That there Doesn't mean he's a good coach or doesn't mean he's a bad coach. But, man, I don't know about ever hearing coaches talk in that kind of light and fashion. And guess what? I actually like that.
Well,
I
he's just
really
he's
do,
he's always going to
because-
be honest.
And I think that's a trait that whether it dooms him or not, being honest sometimes it
Right.
it can doom you. So let's not like that. But
Well,
I
they tried
do
to trap him with the question about the
Yeah.
expectations.
Yeah.
He's like, well, I don't remember really setting expectations. He goes, well, you said that you'd be competitive. He goes, well, yeah.
Right,
like,
right. Of
like
course.
duh.
right. So I love that how he responded to that. So it resonates with me. I just hope he can have some success, and I think that's why I want to give him more time and just see if he can turn the corner. Now, that takes a lot of luck. That takes not only him in coaching, but also getting the right players and the right players to fit your scheme and system on both sides of the ball. And so I'm sure there was a lot of things learned along the way. But, man, I sure hope he can be part of this, and then they go on some historical run here while he's the head coach.
Well, there's a lot I want to get to from the press conference, but I also want to get to your phone, 615-737-1045. We just heard the Tennessee Titans head coach for now, Brian Callahan's end of season presser. What did you think? We got Calvin, Tommy, Hal on the line. When we come back, we'll get to their calls. We'll also give you our thoughts on more of what Brian Callahan had to say. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons. We on 104.5 The Zone, powered by all Four Seasons Garage Doors, of course, and the F&M Bank Chat on Zone TV, Twitch, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook Live. And make sure to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel or Facebook, or hit like and all that kind of stuff. Let's make sure you turn on notifications so you never miss a show. That's the beauty of the internet. You can turn on a notification for everything and never miss a thing. And we played in almost its entirety. We had to take a little break, but we played the majority of the Brian Callahan press conference, the season-ending press conference. He had a lot to get to, but we want to hear your thoughts. 615-737-1045. You want to get on the conversation. We're going to go to Calvin, who wants to talk Titans. Calvin, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yo, Blaine, Hitman. What's going on, Zach? How y'all doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Man, I'm doing good. Boy, look here. I got kicked off of 3HL because I let the real Shiano slip out Friday. And, yeah, well, I was on one. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was on one about this Callahan stuff. I was on one, and I let it slip. Babsy was mad, talking about, you just let it slip out, Calvin. I was like, well, I mean, I didn't mean to. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. But I'm gonna piggyback off of that. Tell what I was trying to tell them. I'm gonna call them back later and apologize to them though. But you know what I'm saying? Because I love you guys. All you guys. I love y'all.
Appreciate you.
This one here gonna be for you, Zach, and I want to hear what you got to say after I hang up. But right. I got two. I got one for you, one for Hitman. Okay, Zach. Look here. What I was telling them the other day. Vrabel came in to a playoff team, man. And we had great success, okay, with the AFC Championship game. Yeah, the hype was going. Everybody was good. Okay, now, fast forward to now. It's crap. You bring in Callahan, okay. He's behind the 8 ball already, Zach, pretty much, right? He's already behind the 8 ball, but yet you want to fire him at the first year. Now, in what world does that make sense to you? Because me, as a Titans Oilers fan since '78, that don't make no sense to me considering everything we've been through. That does not make any sense to me. You can't just fire that man coming in behind the 8 ball, trying to clean up Vrabel stuff, and then get his first year system in. And then, not to mention, he ain't got his own quarterback and he ain't got his own team. That right there does not make sense to me. I'm sorry, but I want to hear your take on that. Now, to Hitman, my man, you know I love you, bro. Okay, look. This thing here about this, what's going on with this? I'm starting to hear little things about this black quarterback and these black coaches and this, and this. Now, look here. You remember Cauley from Houston, first-year black head coach, fired. Then Lovey, right after that, first-year black head coach, fired. Now, Gerard Mayo, first-year black head coach, fired. And now they talk about firing a black GM first year, because last year don't count to me. For Rand. Last year don't count to me because Vrabel had his hands in it. So you got a first-year black general manager, now you're trying to fire. But yet you got these symposiums and these meetings in the summer about raising minorities to the head coachings and all this stuff, but yet you got owners firing these black coaches and these black, GMs like that after year one. Now, me personally, if I was a black head coach trying to make my way up and stuff like that, I ain't trying to do that. Why would I do that? Because I'm just going to get fired the first year anyway if I don't succeed. That's not sending the right message to me, man. And it makes the NFL personally. It makes the NFL look bad, bro. Okay, that's the hit, man. I'm gonna hang up. I'm gonna let y'all see what y'all got to say, and I love you guys, man. I appreciate you having me on.
All right, thanks, Calvin. Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Who was the other coach beside Mayo? Who was?
He was talking about Culley and Lovie Smith.
Right. Well, those are different years. I think all situations are different. I thought Mayo. Well, let's look at Kraft and say, okay, how different is he than Amy? I would say very different. But in this case, he was not. He fired somebody after 1 year. So you say, okay, why did this happen after 1 year? When you think, okay, he was probably going to give him a 2 or 3 year window here to at least see what he could actually do. And they didn't win, and they won the last game, too. That was kind of a fireable offense, too. But at the same time, I think it only happened because of one thing. It starts with a V, Mike Vrabel. See, once he interviewed with the Jets, he goes, uh-oh, I cannot let this happen within our conference. this may be the one and last time, 2 times now, that he'll be available. So I think it's that more so in this particular case than those other ones. I don't know much about the other ones. So, that's kind of how I view it. I'm never going to go down the road because everybody deserves an opportunity. He's still going to get a head coach check. Would you like to get a second year? Yeah, but sometimes you do and sometimes you don't. So, that's kind of how I view it. I just feel like that's what happened in this case.
Yeah. So the Coley case, they just hired a lame duck coach.
I didn't think I thought all those were justified.
Yeah, but they should never hired David Coley.
Right.
I mean, that's I guess that's the issue I have is that you kind of knew that you were hiring 2 lame duck coaches with the NFL, but they still hired D'Amico Ryan. Mm-hmm. So you can't really say in that instance that is necessarily a black thing. Right? I mean, that's really hard to do. Now, do I think that maybe there are shorter leashes for some of these situations and maybe longer leashes
could be true
for people that are white? Yeah, I think there are some situations, but I do. Man, some of the stuff that Robert Kraft said today, I just didn't really like. So, today he held a press conference and he said, well, I put Gerard Mayo, I hired Gerard Mayo and put him in an untenable situation that he wasn't ready for. And then they turn around and fire him. Well, that seems very unfair for anybody. Like, it doesn't matter, anything other than that's just unfair in general. Like, that's not how you should be treating your head coaching process and your hiring process, because that's a guy that you put in their contract. You believed in him. You put it in his contract that the job was his, that he was the successor to Bill Belichick.
That's what we were told after the fact.
But you knew that this was the situation you're putting them in, and then you're just going to be one and done.
Yeah, that was odd.
I don't like that personally. And look, I understand the NFL is a business and all that kind of stuff, but I don't like it. And I wouldn't like that for any coach. That's real crappy. I thought that the way that David Coley was treated, even he was hired, clearly not ready.
No. Definitely. And he was on the staff with me at the Eagles.
Right.
Great human being, but he was not ready to be a head coach.
But that situation is just that's a real bad look on how to treat a guy that not only played for your franchise, but also has coached there for forever, has earned that respect and maybe some more leeway than what you gave him. And look, maybe they heard about Ben Johnson being interested too and willing to take the thing. Because I think that Ben Johnson is right up there with Mike Vrabel.
Ooh.
Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel are right up there with each other to possibly take that head coaching. Because really, and I brought this up on Titans Talk back last night, and Tommy, just be patient with us for a second. I'll get to your phone call. But I brought this up last night. Is the New England fit really a good fit for Mike Vrabel? Let's be honest, because Calvin brought it up at the very beginning. And I know I haven't answered Calvin's question, but Calvin, I agree everything you're saying. I think Brian Callahan needs another year and all this kind of stuff because, Mike Vrabel inherited a playoff team roster. He inherited a team filled with leaders and established veterans and a locker room culture that was built from Ken Wisenhunt by Mike Mularkey. We've never really seen Mike Vrabel build something from scratch.
From the ground up. Yeah.
From the ground up. So we assume that he is good. But, I mean, I would say the general public.
They do.
Because I think I would err with you. But I look at this. I think that James Foster of No Flags Film, who works for the 33rd team, said it best. Mike Vrabel is a great input equals output coach, meaning you give him good roster, he has good results. You give him bad roster, he has bad results. And I look at it and I go, the Patriots roster outside of quarterback is worse almost in every level compared to the Tennessee Titans roster. Is that really a good fit for Mike Vrabel and vice versa? Or is it just that we're enamored with, he used to play for the Patriots, so we got to do it that way, the Patriots way, which they just had the Patriots way end in disaster twice now from Bill Belichick and Gerard Mayo. I think that Ben Johnson is the best and smartest path forward for a team with a young quarterback over Mike Vrabel, and they should be all over Ben Johnson.
Right. Now, I could agree with you on that, but guess what? This world is built on relationships.
It is. I know.
And Vrabel has a great relationship.
Yep.
So it will be interesting. And people say, oh, he's a defensive-minded coach. Well, guess what? He got tied down. He's available. Oh, somebody is available that he knows that can work with a quarterback. So
Josh McDaniel, will he be willing to come back? Because that's his offensive coordinator. Because Tommy Rees may be getting the job over at the Browns. There's also rumors today that not all the coaches are going to be fired from the Patriots. So he's going to have to inherit possibly some coaches as well. Is he going to be willing to do that? It's a very give and take relationship when you talk about these head coaches and GM.
You think Ben Johnson would agree to that?
I think that maybe they would change their mind if it's Ben Johnson. Yeah.
Oh, but I sure think Mike Vrabel would.
Yeah. He needs established people. He needs that kind of help because his ability to build a staff, we have seen it here firsthand, has not been great. So maybe he needs that kind of thing. But I just think it's interesting to the point of Calvin of like, I didn't really personally like how they had Gerard Mayo, but I don't know if really race plays a factor into that particular situation either.
I don't know that
but overall, I wouldn't like that for any head coach.
Right.
And there are situations where that does play into, I feel like maybe how long a leash is.
Yeah.
For certain
I'm with the chat here. Patriots deserve Vrabel.
They deserve it? Because you think it's going to be bad.
That's all I can say.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what they do because they got the perfect decision. That's the perfect crossroads, right? Up and coming, Ben Johnson, hottest name on the coaching market for 2 years versus guy that's been there, done that, play for your team, Mike Vrabel, who has shown the ups and downs of a coaching of a coaching career and has never shown that he can build something from scratch.
And that's where they are at.
And that's where they're at. Because Ben Johnson started over, with the Lions. He's been part of a rebuild.
We all know, is the owner looking at it that way?
We don't know. It will be interesting. I mean, that to me
is intriguing.
That's why I'm saying the crossroads is there. Let's go to Tommy in Nashville who wants to talk about Callahan. Tommy, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Thanks. The reason that Mayo, the Patriots are getting being able to fire a first-year head coach is because he's been with the organization forever. So that's kind of their way out of not being criticized for what they're doing.
Gotcha.
But everybody knows when you're becoming a head coach in the NFL, you tell the organization, I got to have at least 3 years to get the train on the right track. And you know that the Titans told Callahan that they were going to give him time. And it might be the right decision to fire him. But if she does that after she made a terrible decision of letting Vrabel go, then we're going to be the laughing stock in the NFL. What sane coach that's got all the credibility in the world is going to want to come coach for the Titans? Having the first pick is not going to make this organization, become successful just because of that one pick. And Blaine, I wanted to ask you this. Everybody knows, I think it's kind of like the Jets. If you get Deion Sanders' son, guess who else you're drafting? You're drafting him. He's going to want to be calling the plays. He's going to want to tell his son how to do certain things. I mean, is it worth it to take the kid knowing his dad's coming with him, whether you like it or not? I'll hang up and listen. Thanks.
Well, thanks for the call, Tommy. What do you think, Blaine?
I am on the opposite side of this. I think Deion has another job. I think his hands are full with Colorado. I don't know if he'll be able to do that. Now, will he have some comments to say when the media ask him questions? Absolutely. That's who he is. But to think that he's going to have that kind of effect, I'm going to downplay that. And if he's different on that, and so be it. But it's hard to be a head coach at a university in a whole nother state
and not just like a state like Florida or Georgia. You're on you're like a whole different time zone.
Yeah, so I don't think he's going to be that big of an effect. But it's going to be the media who's going to ask him a question. He's definitely going to give it his opinion. So Yeah, that's who Deion is. But
Well,
I
that's
don't
just
think it's
also
got,
the
it
NFL
wouldn't keep
world,
me
right?
from right. I
It's
don't
not
think
just the
that's
Deion Sanders thing. If let's say if Tom Brady had a son that was playing quarterback, he's going to get asked questions as well at press conferences or at media availabilities and stuff.
Well, we shall see. I don't know. We will see. Here's one that we can case study.
Yeah,
Mr. Manning.
There you
go. So it doesn't matter if it's Eli or Peyton, even though it's not their kid, they're going to be asked. So we'll see how much they ask them on their podcast or anything else that they're on.
Yeah.
About, someone who's related to them, even though it's not their son. So I will be interested to see if that happens.
Yeah, it will be interesting to see. I mean, that may be in a couple of years, but we kind of saw some stuff with Arch Manning and Eli Manning, right? I mean, like, this isn't a unique situation to Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Now, you never really heard from Arch Manning after that. But Arch Manning wasn't in the public eye like Deion Sanders. I mean, if Arch Manning was out there coaching, Colorado State or Utah or something like that, everybody'd be asking, right? But that situation, that never really happened. So it'll be unique to see what happens. So, Brian Callahan, we talked about the honesty and all that kind of situation. He talked about calling plays, right? He was asked, have you ever thought about giving up play calling duty, some frame like that. And he goes, look, I'm humbled to recognize that I need to be open enough to it. Like, I'm open to it if I felt that it was a problem, but I feel good about the process. And so I think that for all those that maybe want an experienced OC calling plays, does not seem right now like that is going to happen. Now, he hasn't met with Amy, and maybe that's a condition Amy throws out there, right? I mean, it can happen. But right now, it seems like he feels good about the process, and I kind of agree. I think while it was a slow-moving improvement, I thought that, first off, the play designs were good, play sequencing got better, and the play calling really wasn't too much of an issue, in my opinion, as a whole on the season.
Well, as the season went along, but if let's just say this, if I was the owner, which I wish I was, but I'm not. But
let's start a GoFundMe.
I would, no doubt. I would probably recommend to have some veteran, even as an advisor, on both sides of the ball. To be honest, because all of those guys are young and up and coming coaches, and you could see even Denard. There's times you go, okay, there was too many times where they gave up 100-yard rushes in these long runs. So I think they're on the right track. I just think you maybe need, some guys who've been in this league a very long time, or who can be, that's what they do in college. Like, they get these head coaches for a year or advisor type, coaches. And I think that's all they need. It doesn't have to be he's calling plays. It's just someone else's eyes and opinion. Doesn't mean you have to do them. It's no different.
Well, it's like when Jim Schwartz.
Yeah, Jim Schwartz. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm talking about right there. Get one on offense and defense. That way you can bounce some ideas off of, whether you like them or not, and then use them how you see fit. I think that is fabulous, and I think that's the way they should
David
go.
Shaw, has he been at Denver in a senior advisor role? And that's with Sean Payton.
Oh.
And I believe that's where he is currently at. But he just took a senior advisor role, similar situation, what you're describing. And that's a guy who's been a head coach before, he's already getting head coaching interviews. So that's kind of where I'm at on there. But at the end, I mean, like, okay, Doug Peterson, maybe he wants a year off because of the terrible time he had at Jacksonville. Bring him in. What does it hurt? Not to be a play caller,
his own money,
like,
pay him $30,000, right? He's collected a big check. Right?
He talked about that they're going to be looking for a few new right tackles. It seemed like, whether that's through the draft or free agency. He also brought up right guard as a whole. So he said, feeling really good about from center to the left part of the line. And that right part of the line, that's what we're going to be a focus on, because you got to have a good offensive line. So that was good to hear. Should have been maybe hit a little bit harder this offseason. But
you think?
Yeah. But at least, again, it's more of like you're just saying the right stuff. But, I mean, he seems to be, that's the plan of the attack and plan of focus.
Also, I think you said this, but I know CJ just texted me, Robert Saleh is available. Does he want to come in as an advisor, or does he want to actually be the DC? Now, there's maybe more opportunity, maybe the Bengals or somewhere he could be the DC. But,
because those guys typically go back home, right? Like, I know that there's been some interesting comments about the defensive coordinator and defensive line coach and the defense over at San Francisco. So they may welcome Robert Saleh back in with open arms at San Francisco. You get what I'm saying? But there is an opportunity there, and we don't know who maybe staff he pops up on, in these talks and everything. But yeah, there's plenty of advisor candidates that you could bring in to help boost this staff a little bit and help provide experience. I don't know. He doesn't seem like he really works well with anybody right now.
That's what they say on the streets.
That's what I mean. And that UCLA thing just was kind of crazy.
Yeah, that was interesting. But you see how? But it worked with Andy Reid.
Yeah.
I think it's more Andy Reid is workable with people and knows how to communicate.
And maybe
with
Brian
people.
Callahan can be that guy. We don't know. But Andy Reid's a special kind of coach, right? It's hard to duplicate what Andy Reid is and what he can do with all these different personalities. Let's go to Nick real quick, who wants to talk Tennessee Titans. Nick, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion on a crazy idea. How about we hire Dion as head coach, draft Shador #1, and then the Titans will be the talk of the NFL for the new stadium. I'll shut up and listen.
My thing is, if you're going to fire Brian Callahan and this staff, you really need to go for Ben. You really either need to have Ben Johnson in the bag or do something crazy like that. Let's just get crazy and wild with it if you're going to get rid of Brian Callahan. I don't think it'll work. I think it could end in an utter disaster, but at least it'll be fun for us.
I'm just trying to get why everybody thinks that wherever Shador goes, Dion has to go with him. I'm trying to figure out where they. I feel like I'm left out of the circle. Why do I not think that's a good idea? Why does I think that's not going to happen? Why do I think that has to be? Either. They have to be together. Now I get they were at the same locations, but people got to understand the pros is not college. The pros is not high school. Now I like his idea of the PR part. But I don't know how much Dion makes, but the pro coaches don't make.
He's probably getting a lot more freedom, a lot more money.
He will. Well, I don't know about more money.
Over in Colorado.
Yes, I was going to say, that's what I'm getting at. So, okay, people say stuff about, you want to bring it? Man, I would, draft a quarterback. If I'm going to go that route, man, Steve Sarkisian, I'm not going after these offensive guru dudes. I'm not going for Deion Sanders.
Right.
That's just not where I'm going. So that's just me. Eventually you got to cut the cord when it comes to Deion and his son and I, regardless of how painful or how much you think he's going to be involved. That's just the way it's going to be. The NFL is not for long, and regardless of what you think that he has to be on staff, I don't think he has to be on staff at all.
Well, when we come back, we're going to talk about what the coach said about Will Levis, what he said about Chad Brinker, and some more things. And we're also going to get to your phone call, 615-737-1045. This is Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop, Zach Lyons here on 105 The Zone. Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here, 105 The Zoe, closing out the show. We're going to get to your phone calls in rapid fire, but just real quick, as I said, Brian Callahan in his press conference, he talked about that he is what he looks for in a quarterback: explosive play rate, taking less sacks, turnovers, completion percentage, and elevating the rest of the team and certain leadership styles. He kind of, alluded that both free agency and the draft are going to be ways that they are going to address the quarterback situation, obviously. And they said at the very least, Will Levis will have some competition heading into 2024. He also talked about, he reflected on Levis's development. He said turnovers are a big part of it, but he needs to fine-tune things to focus on in the offseason: footwork, pocket movement, connection of seeing it and doing it, no hesitation. And he also self-reflected and talks about the professional pride he has. Some of the things that Levis has to work on are innate, but are coachable things. He also mentioned that Chad Brinker, real quick, was involved in all of it, which should come as no surprise. He heads up the analytics department. Chad Brinker himself says he watches 4 hours of film a day. It's just who he is. So it's not surprised that analytics is involved in drafting free agency. So just a few of the things I wanted to get to real quick. Let's go to Michael, who will talk about the Tennessee Titans. Michael, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yeah, hey guys, how you all doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Good.
Good. I know we're one day removed from the season being over, but thinking about the future, thinking about the number one pick, I feel like Callahan has had that traditional pocket quarterback, and again, I don't see that coming out of the draft. Something that hit me, I don't know if this sounds stupid, but my first phone call is probably to the Rams, and I'm saying, hey, I'll give you the one. We swap first picks. I grab my quarterback there. He's got 2 years left on his deal. Restructure his deal, maybe make it 3 years. Then your later pick, you can grab an offensive lineman. I think the quarterback position we've got to address that, and to address it quickly. So I'll hang up, listen. Just a thought.
Yeah, I mean, I get it for sure, Michael. You got to have a quarterback. I mean, it doesn't matter what your staff is, who the GM is, who the head coach is. If you don't have a quarterback, you don't have a football team. I mean, that's just pretty much what it is. You just have a bunch of guys out there playing to try to win, but it's really hard to win in this league without some kind of quarterback.
Yeah, so he was referencing he was going to trade for Matthew Stafford. He said Rams, right?
Yeah.
Well, I just wanted to hear him say Stafford. I didn't hear him say that part of it, but yeah, not opposed to that. I would say he's got a couple years left in him for sure. Super talented, probably not as talented as he used to be with just his arm talent, but he's still a super talented player still today. So, yeah, I don't know if he'd like that with this old line. Like, it's not shored up, but I'm sure he would make sure let's get that shored up because I'm not a young chicken.
You're not going to go through this quarterback group with Mason Rudolph and Will Levis again. Yeah, I don't even think either of them are going to be here, but I know for sure those aren't going to be your only options going into 2025. Let's go to Ernie, who wants to talk Tennessee Titans. Ernie, you're on Blaine and Zach.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Doing good.
Let me start. I'm going to start with Brian Callahan. I really feel that he needs to have the benefit of the doubt, because when he came, they told him for him to get what the coach needs. And coach, or actually, I said it wrong, get what the coach wants. And so he goes out, he finds some players, and he asks the coach, which one you think work with you the best. And so it's not all on him, it's on the two of them. But I think Mike Vrabel had part to say in that. And then I like listening to Callahan. I think he is a good person. I think he probably will be a good coach. I like the upside that Levis could have if he is coachable, because between the two of them, they have the opportunity to be linked for a long time, just like Belichick and Brady, or or Andy Reid and Mahomes. So, I almost say keep all of them because it's new. It was a whole team thrown together. Nobody knew any of them, and they're just taking a while to gel. That's all I got to say.
I agree, Ernie. Got to get some patience in there. We're going to go rapid fire. So if I go to you, we got to go quick because we got to get out here soon. Let's go to Rob wants to talk about Deion Sanders. Rob, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Hey, guys. Thanks for taking my call. I'll go really quick. First, I just want to say, the window of time the NFL teams are giving coaches and quarterbacks to develop is really shortened, and it's kind of adversely affecting, I think, our team, especially we've already finished with Levis, and we want to get Callahan out and start all over again. So what does that trajectory look like? And also, Deion Sanders is not going to come to the NFL. He has stated he does not want to have to coach NFL players. They're hard to manage. And for his personality, he loves college. Yeah. I know he wants to see his son go to a contender, but he's not going with him. Right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Good reminder. Yeah, I've definitely seen that multiple times.
Yeah, for sure. I didn't hear Rob's first part of the question before he got to Deion. I was talking to producer Jackson. So my bad, Rob. Call back with that question tomorrow. Let's go to Victor with Blaine and Zach right now. Victor, you're on with Blaine and Zach.
Yes, I think, how y'all doing today? Thank you for accepting my call. I think we just need to trust the process. I like Brian. I think Brian and Rand have been cooking. I think, sometimes you win, sometimes you lose. Everybody just needs to trust the process. We got the number one pick. Go get another quarterback. We can keep Will. He already, it ain't going to cost us to keep bringing a veteran too. That's what let them all go in competition. That's all I got to say.
Cool.
I like it. I mean, I think there's, kind of what we saw a couple days or last week when we asked a question. A lot of people seem to be preaching a little bit of patience with this entire regime and staff, letting them get to that situation. Unfortunately, I could not get to Johnny and I could not get to Deal. Sorry about that. But hey, guess what? 3HL's up next. They're going to be talking all about the Tennessee Titans, all about Brian Callahan's press conference, and be with you if any kind of news breaks about the Tennessee Titans or at the NFL at large. This has been Cover 2 with Blaine Bishop and Zach Lyons here on 104.5 The Zone. And in the meantime.
And in between time.
Peace.